I never imagined a famous singer would change her mind about adopting my sister. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. That day started like any other, but it soon spiraled into chaos. The news hit like a thunderclap, piercing through the haze of my normal life. The whispering world around us buzzed with shock. My heart raced, pounding like a drum in my chest. I felt the weight of hope crawling off my shoulders. My sister, Mia, was just a girl with wild dreams. 11 years old, with bright blue eyes that sparkled with mischief. She always believed she would be adopted by someone who would change our lives forever. I remember her clutching that old, frayed teddy bear, her anchor in a storm we couldn't escape. She would smile, talk about her future mom who sang like a nightingale. It was all enchanting until it wasn't. We'd spent countless nights watching the shimmering skyline from our crummy apartment. Our laughter echoed off the walls, but even then, we felt the shadows creep in. Our moms struggled with addiction. I was only 16, just trying to keep us off Loato, make meals, to soothe fears, to carry the weight of the world. The orphanage was cold, clinical, a stifling cage for a fiery spirit like Mia. I had to protect her. I wanted to shield her from the pain surrounding us. Then, one night, everything changed. The talk of the town began to swirl around that famous singer. Her voice, like velvet on ice, captivated everyone. Maria Velasquez. Her name was on everyone's lips. We were all in awe of her journey from nothing to superstar. She wanted to adopt a child. I could hardly breathe when I found out. MIA's dreams were finally within reach. We attended the charity event where Maria was the star. The lights dazzled, the air popped with energy. People wore masks of joy surrounding us. But there was something eerie beneath the surface, like a shadow watching from the sidelines. As applause erupted, I saw Maria, her beauty striking but cold. Her eyes held secrets I couldn't unravel. The moment she laid eyes on Mia, my heart shot into my throat. Was this it? Maria chose Mia. It felt like a miracle. There were whispers, though people murmured strange things. They said Maria was haunted by her past. Rumors danced around her, swirling in the air like a ghost beckoning for attention. A tragic loss, heartbreak rattled her world. I turned to Mia, her face lit up with unyielding joy, but deep inside me, a storm brewed. Something didn't feel right. Weeks passed. Nestled in the warm embrace of hope, we clutched our dreams tightly. But the shadows lurked. Just when I thought it was real, Maria announced it was all off. The news crashed through my heart like a sledgehammer. My hands trembled as I held the pieces of our shattered world. Why? I stammered, my voice a mere echo of despair. Why would she change her mind? Was it because of her past? Did she see something in Mia that she didn't want? My eyes stung with unshed tears. I couldn't tell Mia. Not yet. Not when her world glimmered with possibility. Yet the silence spoke volumes, twisting in my gut like a rope tightening around my insides. I stepped outside into the chilly night, breathing in that sharp scent of spilled secrets. Orange streetlights buzzed like angry wasps. My heart raced wildly. What had I missed? What existed just beyond our grasp? A part of me was terrified, waiting for the other shoe to drop, but then, in the shadows, I noticed a figure lingering, someone who had been there that night. I squinted, trying to make sense of the blurred outline. My pulse quickened. Did they know something? Someone who could change everything? A heart-stopping moment of recognition surged through me. Someone who wielded the truth like a sword. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night air felt electrified, buzzing with the memories of that fateful night and the sharp reality of what had just happened. My heart raced as I peered into the shadows, the figure slowly emerging as I stepped closer. It was Jacob, a photographer I recognized from the charity event. His camera hung at his side, and his expression was solemn, brows furrowed like he carried the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Hey," he called out, his voice low but clear against the backdrop of the bustling city. I didn't respond immediately. The shadows bounced around us in the dim light as I tried to gather my thoughts. My mind whirled. Why was he here? Did he have some insider knowledge about Maria's decision? Suddenly, it felt like the weight of my sister's hopes rested squarely on this conversation. Do you know why she backed out? I finally managed to ask, desperate for answers. The edges of my voice trembled, the emotion clawing at the back of my throat. Jacob shifted nervously, glancing around as if he were ensuring our privacy. "It's complicated, but I overheard something backstage." His voice trailed off, uncertainty clouding his eyes, but the urgency was clear. "What? You have to tell me," I urged, my heart sinking with every heartbeat. "Please, she's all I have." In trying to protect her, his gaze softened, a flicker of compassion breaking through that hardened facade. I didn't want to say anything, but Maria went through something tragic a few years back. A child she almost adopted. It didn't end well, and ever since, she's hesitated. It's like her past keeps pulling her back. The words landed like stones in my gut. A child. It was like a cruel twist of fate, a reminder that not everyone escapes their ghosts. "So, MIA's dreams, they don't matter to her?" I asked, the desperation flooding my voice. "It's not about Mia," Jacob insisted. "It's about Maria. She is terrified of getting hurt again." It's a deep wound. I felt crushed by the weight of his revelation, the images of MIA's hopeful face flashing through my mind. I had promised her a chance at happiness, but now I stood at the edge of despair. The thought of calling her back into our tiny, echoing apartment, back to the life we had grown to loathe, made bile rise in my throat. But as this realization settled heavily on my heart, a flicker of determination sparked within me. "We can't give up on her. There must be a way to reach her," I declared, surprising even myself. Jacob regarded me with newfound respect. "You're brave. Not many people would fight for an idea that looks so bleak." I thanked him with a nod, channeling that feeling bravura sentiment I hoped to embody as I attempted to make sense of the crumbling path before me. Just as I turned to walk away, Jacob called out once more, his voice laced with urgency. "Wait. If you really want to understand her, you should try to talk to her solo. There's a chance she might see someone who genuinely cares." "Where can I find her?" I asked, clinging to this thread of hope. "Her next concert is in a week. I think she often visits the same diner afterward." But he hesitated again, this time the concern in his eyes deepening. "If you go, be careful. Some things are much more complicated than they appear." I nodded, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and dread. Armed with a new purpose, I had a week to nurture this hope, keep Mia in the loop without fraying her Spiritan impossible balance. It felt enormous, yet invigorating. I turned and walked toward home, the night pressing around me like a suffocating blanket. I had to bear this burden, not only for Mia but for the dreams we once held in our hands. The next day was another cloudy morning, the air heavy with anticipation. As I arrived home, I found Mia sitting cross-legged on the floor, clutching her teddy bear. She looked up at me with those sparkling blue eyes, innocence and hope radiating from her small frame. "Are you crying? Did something happen?" she asked, but I smiled, forcing down the worry clawing at my insides. "No, everything is okay," I said, trying to muster the enthusiasm I knew she craved. "I just have to work hard for you, for us." But as the days crept by, each moment filled with MIA's laughter and the ever-growing tension in my chest, I couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was brewing. I held on to my promise to Mia, but with every laugh and smile, the reality of our life tightened around me like ropes ready to snap, and then came the calla harbinger of either salvation or despair. It was Mariah's assistant, asking if I could meet with Maria that very night. My heart raced. Was this our chance? Would this conversation bring clarity or further darkness into our world? I didn't know what awaited, but I felt a thrill of hope mixed with fear. I could be standing on the precipice of a collision with destiny. As I prepared to leave, I caught MIA's eye once more. She smiled, blissfully unaware of the storm surging beyond the confines of our walls. But as I hugged her tightly, I felt a shift in the air, a faint tremor, almost like the fluttering wings of fate soaring just out of reach. With a final breath, I stepped out into the night, determined to find answers, but cradling the haunting question, would the truth set us free or crush us further under its merciless weight? The diner was a small have-none of those classic joints with red leather booths and a jukebox playing soft melodies from a time long past. The smell of coffee and pastries wrapped around me like a warm cloak as I stepped inside, my heart pounding with equal parts fear and anticipation. I scanned the room, desperately searching for a sign of Maria. Did I even have the courage to knock on the door of her heart after all this? As I approached the counter, the white dress, a kind woman with salt and pepper hair and a calming smile, recognized my unease. "First time here?" she asked gently, filling a cup with steaming coffee. I nodded, gripping the cup as if it were a lifeline. "Just waiting for someone," I replied, unsure if my voice managed to convey the weight of the promise I carried. "Take your time, honey. She usually comes in after her gigs. If she's had a good show, she might be more open to a chat." Her encouragement warmed me, reminding me of the kindness that still flickered through the world. 20 minutes slipped by, and I sipped my coffee slowly, watching the door with each dangling chime that signaled new arrivals. My heart was a relentless drum in my chest, echoing the desperation of my mission. I could feel MIA's hopes clinging to my every thought, urging me forward toward the inevitable confrontation, and then, like a siren emerging from the mist, there she was. Maria stepped through the door, her face glowing softly despite the exhaustion that laced her features. Her long, dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, and the faint remnants of stage makeup adorned her cheeks. She seemed both ethereal and fragile, like a fine glass ornament, delicate yet dazzling. I hesitated momentarily as my heart skipped. Would she feel my resolve, or would she see only the weight of expectation I brought? I drew a shaky breath and approached her, each step a calculation of courage. "Maria?" I called softly, and her piercing eyes met mine, widening for a heartbeat before narrowing in confusion. "Do I know you?" she asked, her voice quiet and cautious. "No, but I've been following your story," I stammered, panic rising in my throat. "I'm here because of Mia." At the mention of MIA's name, her wall began to shift, though I couldn't tell if it was in a positive way or not. "Mia?" she echoed. "The little girl from the charity event?" "Yes," I said, watching closely for any sign of recognition. "She believes in you." "We both do. We thought you might want to be part of her life, to have a chance at being a family. But I understand if you're hesitant. I only want you to hear what she has to say." Mariah's face paled slightly, her expression a mixture of admiration and deep sorrow. "I wish I could, but it's not that simple. My life isn't what it appears to be on stage. Please," I pressed, drawing closer. "All she wants is a family. You know how it feels to hope for something, only to watch it slip away." "My past is a weight I can't shake off," Maria replied, her voice trembling. "You don't understand what happened. Too lost a child. I can't go through it again." In that moment, the truth of her fear struck me like a sudden gust of wind, chilling and formidable. It was not merely the specter of loss that haunted her, but the shadows of deep-seated guilt and grief. What was I trying to wrestle from her? A miracle or a fresh wound? "I'm so sorry," I said softly, my heart aching. "But this isn't about me or even you. It's about Mia. She deserves a shot, and right now, she has no one." Tears glistened in Mariah's eyes, and she turned her gaze to the window, as if searching for clarity among the passing cars. I felt helpless, my words another weight added to the one she carried. As silence enveloped us, I thought of leaving, of turning back toward my empty apartment and MIA's innocent eyes. But maybe I wouldn't have to. Suddenly, Maria faced me again, determination flaring through her features. "I can't guarantee anything. This is complicated. A chance is all I'm asking for, Maria," I pleaded. "You don't have to take all the risks by yourself. I'll be there for you, for both of you." Instead of answering, Maria stared down at her trembling hands. I watched as a battle waged within her, the weight of her past clashing with the flicker of hope I had ignited. In that quiet moment, my phone vibrated in my pocket. I reached for it, glancing at the screen. A message from Mia flashed. When will you be home? It tumbled through my mind like an echo of innocence, a reminder of everything that rested on this fragile thread of hope. I looked back at Maria, the flicker of possibility now hanging by a thread. Please, I said again, but before I could continue, she leaned forward, her eyes locking with mine in an intense gaze. I need time, she said finally, her voice steadying as her resolve crystallized. If I agree to meet her, there's no going back. A sudden burst of warmth surged through me. Was this what I had been searching for all along? An opening to Mariah's heart, a taste of reckoning? But just as a flicker of hope began to shine, I heard a commotion at the entrance. I turned to see a group of fans burst into the diner, chatter and laughter filling the air. One of them spotted Maria and began to fanatically approach, eyes wide with excitement. Maria, can we get a selfie? Please? My heart sank at the interruption, the connection we had just solidified on the cusp of breaking. She looked torn, eyes darting between me and the oncoming wave of demanding faces. I need to go, she uttered, the frantic energy of her fans rushing to her like an overwhelming wave against the shore. Maria. I called after her, desperation clawing at my throat. Please don't forget you have the power to change someone's world. She looked back, hesitation etched across her features. With one last glance, she nodded slightly, just enough for me to feel the current of possibility, but it was gone as quickly as it had come, swept away in the tide of expectation. As Maria left, a mix of despair and fleeting hope enveloped me. I stood frozen, grappling with the reality of what had just transpired. Would we ever have a chance? Would she ever fully embrace the idea of family again? Suddenly my phone pinged with another message from Mia, pulling me back from the precipice of my thoughts. I miss you. A fresh wave of determination washed over me. I knew my path was far from clear, but as I stood there, weighty with emotions, I realized one thing: the fight wasn't over. As I stepped out into the bustling street, my resolve began to form. Surging through Metis was only the beginning. There were still doors left to open and truths yet to unravel. I would not let Maria's fear shatter Mia's dreams. Not now, not ever. Yet just as I turned to head home, another chilling message lit up my screen. A news alert. Vision blurred, I squinted at the headline. Famous singer's life threatened. Hospitalized after a near-fatal accident. My heart dropped, a chilling uncertainty wrapping around me like icy fingers. What would this mean for Maria and for Mia? Would the fragile threads of our journey unravel before we even began to weave them? Would I lose my chance to fight for the love we sought? It was one shocking revelation after another, and, tonight, nothing seemed certain anymore. The streets were sharp with the bustling sounds of honking cars and hurried footsteps, a stark contrast to the turmoil erupting inside me. I was lost in a fog of disbelief as I clutched my phone, the headline flashing mercilessly before my eyes. The world had suddenly shifted, and with it, the trajectory of my dream to reunite Mia with the one person who could change her life. I forced myself to breathe. Each inhale a reminder of the resolve that had carried me this far, yet the news cracked that resolve wide open, leaving a chasm of uncertainty. My mind raced back to the missed connection with Maria. I replayed the brief moment of intimacy we shared, lamenting how quickly it had been stolen away. My feet carried me toward the small apartment I shared with Mia as if on autopilot, lost in thought. Every step I took felt heavy, weighted down by not just fear for Maria, but the fear of what would happen to Mia if we lost this chance. Was the spark of possibility extinguished with that fateful news bulletin? As I reached home, the familiar smell of vanilla candles and fresh laundry hit me, a stark reminder of the warmth and safety I always sought to provide for Mia. I opened the door and found her sprawled on the tiny living room couch, engrossed in a cartoon. Seeing her peaceful face, my heart twisted painfully in my chest. How could I tell her that the world was as precarious as the fragile hope we had just begun to nurture? Mia, I called softly, stepping inside. She turned her head and smiled, her eyes lighting up like the sun breaking through dark clouds. Did you see Maria? She asked eagerly, her innocence shimmering through the thick fog of my anxieties. I hesitated, the weight of what I held back almost too much to bear. I did, sweetheart. She's considering it. Mia shifted to sit upright, her excitement barely containing itself. Really? Do you think she'll want to meet me? The joy bursting in my sister's voice filled my heart with warmth, yet it was short-lived. The news flashed through my mind again, a blaring siren disrupting the calm waters of our moment. I hope so, love. But we just need to give her time to think. Like a dimming light, her enthusiasm faltered. Why does she need time? It's easy. Family is wonderful. Everyone should want one. Those words resonated painfully deep, gnawing at the anguish Maria had shared. Mia hadn't experienced loss in the same way, hadn't been scarred by the sharp edges of grief. She was just a little girl who yearned for a mother's love, while Maria wore the heavy cloak of past tragedies. I know, Mia, I said, kneeling beside the couch, grabbing her small hands in mine. But sometimes when people have lost something, they need to heal before they can allow love back in. But we're here. And we can help. She looked at me, desperation clawing at her innocent features. She won't want me if we wait. My heart shattered a little more. That's not true, I assured her, but my voice faltered, shadowed by doubt. We just have to believe that it can work out. With a huff of frustration, Mia plopped back onto the couch, her face scrunching in that way it always did when she was determined to be heard. You promised. The disappointment in her voice was palpable, twisting the knife deeper. You said you'd talk to her. You said it's okay to hope. But now we might never see her again. Mia, please, I urged, holding her tight for a moment, my heart aching at her suffering. Let's not give up just yet. Still, the truth hung like a heavy cloud overhead. I could feel it inching closer, the realization that I had ventured into a storm with no clear path to safety. As I looked into her big, trusting eyes, I knew I had to protect that childlike hope, even as mine faltered. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, and my heart raced, half expecting another alarming update. This time, it was a message from an unknown number. You need to come to the hospital. Now. It's about Maria. The blood drained from my face as fear coursed through me. Mia, I need you to stay here. I'll be right back. I rushed out, my mind a whirlwind of. Thought the world seemed to tilt once more as I reached the hospital's entrance. The sterile smell of antiseptic greeted me, and for a brief moment, I felt dizzy, as if I were about to drift into the very depths of uncertainty I had fought so hard to avoid. I asked for Maria at the front desk, anxiety churning in my stomach. As I was led down the sterile hallways, the burden of reality pressed heavily against my chest. Was this fate spiraling out of control, or perhaps a twisted hand of destiny at play? When I finally stood before her hospital room, a wave of trepidation washed over me. Part of me feared the worst, while another part clung to the fleeting thread of possibility. I knocked gently, and as the door creaked open, I was met with a sight that anchored my heart in my chest. Maria lay there, pale but alive, her eyes darting across her room as if she were searching for someone. The tension that crowded the space was palpable, but then our gazes met, and for a moment, time stood still. Maria, I breathed, unable to contain the relief that filled me. What happened to me? She murmured, her voice strained, yet filled with faint warmth. Before I could answer, she locked eyes with mine, the palpable fear giving way to something that felt akin to hope. But underneath, I felt the lingering dread of the news. I hadn't shared the brutal reality of the accident that could change everything we dared to dream. Maria, they said you had an accident. Are you okay? A lump formed in my throat, and I was acutely aware of the fragility of this moment, this connection woven with threads of uncertainty and flashing possibilities. I don't know yet, she replied honestly, blinking back tears. I felt like I was drowning, but now I'm here, and it's confusing. And for the first time, I understood. She was just as lost in this world of uncertainty and fear as I was, clinging to hope through her own grim shadows. As I opened my mouth to speak, unsure of what comfort I could possibly provide, the door swung open wider, and a nurse stepped in, her expression unreadable. Ms. Maria, we need to discuss options moving forward. The air turned electric, a tension surging through the room. I could sense hinges creaking within the frames of both our fates. What if this was a defining moment? Each heartbeat pulsed like a drum of impending change, and I was caught somewhere between hope and despair, waiting for the other shoe to drop. As I watched Maria, a question emerged within me, mingling with my fears and longings. Would this accident fracture our hopes forever, or was it merely another shift in the unpredictable path of life? Time would tell, but as the weight of uncertainty pressed upon us, one thing was clear: the journey had only just begun, and our collective fate hung in the balance, teetering precariously on a thread of chance. The unyielding beeping of machines melded with the murmurs of distant conversations in the hospital hallway, creating a symphony of anxious anticipation. I stood by Maria's bedside, my heart racing, as the nurse's words lingered ominously in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. The last words exchanged between us hung between USA fragile tether connecting our intertwined fates. Options? Maria echoed, her voice barely above a whisper, heavy with the weight of the world. The flicker of uncertainty in her eyes reflected my own turmoil. I had felt so certain moments ago, a sliver of hope blazing against the backdrop of despair. Now, the blazing ember seemed more like a dying flame. The nurse stepped forward, her professionalism almost clinical. Yes, Maria. After your accident, we need to assess your mental and physical health moving forward. There are many factors to consider. As she began to explain, I tried to focus on her words, desperate to draw something positive from the conversation. Yet, each phrase felt like a stone sinking into my gut. Have you been informed about potential rehabilitation programs? The nurse continued, detailing the next steps with a cadence that felt disjointed from the chaos in my mind. We have facilities that specialize in different types of care. We can provide a counselor, but Maria interrupted, shaking her head weakly. I don't understand. What if I don't want any of that? I just want to be whole again. I felt my heart ache for her despair. The spark of resilience I had seen now seemed dimmed, extinguished under layers of fear and questions yet to be answered. I stepped closer to her, gripping her hand tightly, urging her to focus on me. Maria, listen to the nurse. This is about making you better. We're in this together. She looked at me, and in her gaze, I saw shadows of the woman who had shared with me her broken dreams, the weight of her history almost palpable in her expression. What if they can't make me whole again? Her voice trembled, raw and exposed. What if I'm too far gone? Her words hung heavily in the air, the truth of her doubt escalating the anguish in my chest. You're not alone in this. We are going to fight together, I insisted, searching for the spark of hope, knowing that it was crucial for both of us. We're going to find a way, I promise. Maria accepted my assurance with a nod, though the glimmer of doubt surfaced again. I wished I could erase her worries, but the reality of her situation was too present, an invisible shroud that threatened to choke out all it meant to hope. The nurse continued to discuss options as I reached into my pocket, pulling out MIA's drawing of their Futuria, colorful parchment filled with swirls of joy and dreams born from innocence. It was a reminder of what had anchored me through the storm, the thought of a family knitted together, stronger than the phrase of individual pasts. Maria, I said, my voice firm and steady, I believe we can turn the page on your story. And I have something that might help you remember the light. I handed her the drawing, watching her expression shift from dread to intrigue. Her eyes softened as she studied the vibrant sketches. Is this MIA's work? She asked, the corners of her mouth lifting slightly. Yeah, this is how she sees her future with you. A small breeze of warmth pulsed between us, and for a brief moment, the atmosphere felt lighter. Maybe I could find my way back, she whispered, her voice steadying, perhaps just a fraction stronger with this newfound connection. But just then, the door swung wide open, and in burst a tense but familiar figure. My breath caught as I recognized Maria's sister Melina, her face pinched in worry, as if she had fought her way through the night's shadows to reach us. Maria, you scared the hell out of me, Melina exclaimed, rushing to her bedside, her hands trembling as she grasped Maria's. When I heard what happened, I thought Maria's eyes brimmed with unshed tears, and she looked at Melina with a mixture of relief and insecurity. I'm okay, I promise. Just a little lost. The sight of sibling solidarity sparked a profound sense of hope within me, threads weaving into a tapestry of resilience. Yet, beneath my joy lingered an uncomfortable reminder: were we truly on solid ground, or was this merely a fleeting moment of clarity in an otherwise unstable existence? As Melina and Maria clung to one another, laughter momentarily filled the room, chiming lightly above the pervasive beeping of machines. I couldn't help but feel a sense of longing wash over me, both for the bond they shared and the risk of the uncertainty looming large, like dark clouds gathering for a storm. Then, from the corner of my eye, I noticed a figure lingering in the doorway, a familiar silhouette. My heart raced as the tall woman stepped into view, her face a blend of concern and unwavering determination. It was the last person I expected to see, yet the presence sent a flurry of mixed emotions spiraling within me. "Mia?" she called softly, her voice a soothing balm amid the tension. "I'm here to see you." And with that single statement, hope and anxiety intertwined once more. I felt the room shift slightly, as if the very ground we stood upon trembled beneath the weight of possibilities. Would this visit reignite a dying spark, or would it just magnify the shadows creeping on the horizon? In that moment, as thoughts swirled around my mind like autumn leaves caught in the wind, I caught a glimpse of Mia's, drawing in Maria's hand the fragile thread of life that pulsed with possibility, teetering on the edge of everything we dared to yearn for. The excitement mixed with fear clenched my stomach, whispering one chilling thought: this unexpected arrival could change everything, even what it meant for us all moving forward. The tension in the hospital room thickened like fog rolling in from the coast, saturating every moment with uncertainty. Maria's hand trembled in Melina's grasp as Mia stepped further into the space, her presence radiating an infuriating mixture of warm familiarity and unexpected chaos. "I can't believe you're here," I whispered, caught off guard by how her mere appearance sent ripples through my heart. My mind raced with questions about her intentions, our fragile balance, and the delicate dynamics unfolding around us. Mia's eyes landed on Maria, sparkling with genuine concern. "I had to come. I can't just let this happen without being here for you." The sincerity in her voice was a balm on my frayed nerves, yet it also ignited something deeper within the shadows of my heart. As the sisters embraced, the connection palpable and raw, I felt the flicker of hope ignite in the pit of my stomach. It was contagious, the way they clung to each other, vowing protection in a world that had suddenly turned upside down. But as Mia turned to me, uncertainty clouded her features. "How is she?" "Are the doctors—" "She still has a long way to go," I interrupted, swallowed by anxiety. "They mentioned rehab programs." "It's all a lot to process." "I can help," Mia replied, her eyes darting between the two sisters, skirting the edges of a tension that I could sense. "You know, I'm not just a singer anymore. I've been working with advocates and charities. There is so much support available." "No," Maria murmured, her gentle protest pulling me back, navigating us through the complexity of this unexpected reunion. "I don't want to be a project. I need to be in control of my own life." Mia's expression faltered momentarily, the weight of Maria's words hanging delicately in the air. "I don't want to override your choices. Just want you to know that you're not alone." I could feel a collective breath being held in the room as the air shimmered with unspoken emotions. Melina squeezed Maria's hand tighter, silently promising her love, while I stood helpless, an observer in a narrative far bigger than myself. Was this the moment ladders of hope would stretch out, or would they merely collapse under the pressure? As the conversation flowed, I felt my heart tugging in both directions, one towards Maria's fragility, the other towards Mia's earnest desire to help. With every heartbeat, an insistent question pounded in my mind: could familiarity with a celebrity truly bridge the vast chasm of discomfort and fear that enveloped our lives now? "Listen," I began cautiously, hoping to streamline the chaotic emotions swirling like a tempest. "Rehabilitation requires time and effort. Are you prepared for that, Maria?" Maria turned her gaze, seeking clarity before she replied. I don't know. It's scary. What if I fail?" I rushed to assure her. "We're all scared. But what if we don't at least try?" Mia chimed in, her tone calm and encouraging. "Exactly. You won't be doing it alone. You have family, you have friends. You have me, for whatever that's worth." Those words hung powerfully in the air, a lifeline offered amidst the growing despair. But a flicker of doubt crawled back into my heart. Was MIA's light truly what Maria needed, or did it only blind her from the path she needed to forge on her own? And just as I wrestled with this uncertainty, the sterile hospital light flickered ominously. An unexpected ominous omen of the challenges yet to come. A nurse entered, urgency in her stride, eyes darting between the sisters and Mia, a shadow gliding into our shared light. "Excuse me," she interjected, voice steady yet edged with haste. "I need to speak with Mariah's family. There's been a development regarding her treatment plan that requires your immediate attention." A cascade of apprehension engulfed the room, Mariah's face draining of color as apprehension permeated her features. Melina's grip tightened. MIA's expression morphed into something unrecognizable, yet I knew all too well that the buzzing storm looming outside our doors was far from over. "What is it?" Maria demanded, her voice cracking slightly but fierce. "Please, I need to discuss it privately first." "It's about your condition and the potential complications," the nurse replied, eyeing Mia with a protective glance. The air thickened, woven with strands of unspoken fear, threads desperately clinging to the hope of yesterday. Melina shot me a troubled glance, and I could feel my breath quicken in my chest. "Let's go, Maria. Don't worry. We'll figure this out," I whispered, urging her not to lose the courage she had just begun to reclaim. And yet as Mariah's hand slipped from Melina's, my heart receded, a sinister thought spiraling through my mind. What kind of development could turn our fragile solidarity into an unraveling thread, pulling apart at the seams? As the nurse led Maria away, a dark void settled in my stomach, and I found myself clenching my fists, hoping against hope that we would not lose the most essential part of her again. The seconds turned into a suffocating eternity as Maria walked away, the weight of an unseen burden dragging her down the sterile corridor. I could feel Melina vibrate with anxiety beside me, her once steady demeanor now frayed at the edges as we both waited, suspended in uncertainty. "Do you think she's going to be okay?" Melina whispered, her voice frail as if it could shatter under the weight of the question. I wanted to reassure her, to weave promises of safety and recovery around us like a cocoon. But instead, my mind swirled with the unknown. What did that ominous development mean for Maria? How could we possibly navigate this new maze of fear? Mia stood beside us, her expression unreadable as she bit her lip, studying the door that had just swallowed Maria whole. The silence between us thickened, tinged with unsteady breaths and mounting dread. I tried to anchor my thoughts, reminding myself of the flickers of hope Maria had emitted moments before. But shadows crept back in, mingling with my thoughts. I think Mia finally broke the haunting silence, her voice coming out clearer, but drenched with unease. "I think I should talk to the nurse. Maybe, if she knows who I am, she can help me advocate for Maria." The desperation in her tone brushed against my own fear like a match against paper. "Will it matter? I mean, what if they won't tell you anything?" Melina questioned, her hands clasping each other anxiously. "Anything would help," Mia said, determination melding into her voice. She straightened her back and moved towards the corridor where the nurse had taken Maria. My heart twisted as I watched her, my instinct to stop her warring with the knowledge that we all wanted to help in whatever way we could. Melina began to pace, her movements jarring against the silence that thickened further, each step resonating like a clock counting down to an impending catastrophe. "I can't lose her." "I want," she muttered, grappling with the emotions that bubbled beneath the surface. "Neither will we," I assured her, though even I could hear the tremor in my own voice. We stood in the eye of an emotional storm, surrounded by swirling winds of possibility, yet tethered by the unseen weight of dread. Minutes slipped away before Mia returned, her face like a storm cloud, overshadowed by something deeper than mere anxiety. "They're running some tests," she began, her voice caught in her throat. "There are concerns about infection complications. It might delay her therapy." They said they're worried about. Her words faltered, and with an encouraging nudge from Melina, she pushed through, "about her overall healing process. We're going to have to prepare ourselves for the possibility that this hospitalization might not be a straight path." "They're suggesting an extended stay." Melina's face paled, her expression an empty canvas of shock as she processed each word. Extended stay, but she can't stay longer. I can't bear the thought of her in there alone. I have to be with her. The edge in her voice pushed against the fragile atmosphere of hope that had barely settled in the room. Before I could respond, we all turned abruptly as the door opened once again. Maria stepped through, her expression pale and strained, eyes searching ours for comfort, reassurance, a lifeline. But what I saw was something more daunting, a raw flicker of vulnerability mingled with fear. Melina rushed towards her, arms open wide as if seeking to fold her sister into a protective embrace. What did they say? Are you okay? The air thickened with a myriad of conflicting emotions as Maria stood before us, the weight of revelation swirling like a tempest on her furrowed brow. I don't know, she muttered, her hand instinctively moving to her throat, a gesture that screamed fear. They found something on the scans. They think it could be serious. A deafening silence fell, each word settling heavily in the space between us like a stone dropped into the depths of an unseen abyss. My heart raced through 1,000 thoughts, each one more panic-stricken than the last. What did serious mean? How quickly could everything crumble? Mia stepped forward, firm and resolute despite the vulnerability that hung between us. Whatever it is, we can face this together, Maria. Her voice softened. You're not alone. But even as those words hung in the air, I couldn't shake the looming fear that the journey ahead would tear us apart instead of binding us closer together. The uncertainty of Mariah's condition, compounded by the genuine concern pulsing through the room, felt like a fragile treasure hanging by a mere thread, and then the unthinkable hit me, a sinking realization that twisted my insides. What if in that moment of vulnerability, Maria could choose to take a life-altering turn? Perhaps it was no longer just about her healing. Maybe she'd reconsider the adoption plan, a lifeline that once felt irrevocable. As those thoughts stormed through my mind, Mariah's eyes searched mine desperately, and in that moment, a flicker of understanding passed between us. The ambiguity of her fate loomed ahead, and just as the light shifted, casting long shadows across the room, I felt an unsettling conviction wash over me. My heart thudded painfully in my chest as the truth settled. The decisions we would face might pull us apart forever. And perhaps I dared to think that we might be standing on the precipice of a choice that could alter everything. Just then, a nurse rushed in, her face drawn and eyes sharp with urgency. Maria, we need to discuss your options, she said without preamble, glancing at me with a trace of sympathy. It's important you understand what lies ahead. The chill that passed through me was as profound as the existential weight of that statement. My gaze shifted from the nurse to Maria, her expression a mosaic of fear and resilience, but now the look in her eyes spoke volumes. How deep this journey would take us, I could only begin to fathom. And as the door closed, I felt an overwhelming swell of dread. The emotional storm we were caught in was just beginning to unfold, and vulnerability stood hand in hand with the ferocity of our looming choices, threatening to change everything once more. The air in the room was thick with tension, a palpable whirlwind of thoughts and emotions swirling against the sterile walls. As the nurse stood there, I could feel every heartbeat resonating, each thump sounding like a countdown to something monumental. Maria faced a critical crossroads, one that could reshape not just her life, but the lives of all of us tethered to her through love and hope. Options? Maria echoed, her voice trembling ever so slightly, the innocence of her question underscoring the gravity of her situation. The nurse's steely demeanor didn't waver. She had the poise of someone who is used to bearing burdens both heartbreaking and heavy. Yeah, the nurse continued, letting her eyes fall on Maria with a mixture of sympathy and professionalism. With what we found, there are interventions to consider, some potential treatments that could impact your healing. Maria swallowed hard, understanding the weight of the word interventions. It echoed through the space, amplifying the shadows gathering in her eyes. Inside, I felt a part of me begin to spiral. What could these treatments entail? Were there risks? Each question felt like a brick added to the facade, shielding my heart from the raw fear that bubbled just beneath the surface. Treatment options, along with the nurse hesitated, biting her lip. You may need to think about what comes next. We can arrange for counseling to discuss the next steps should you choose to go down this path. Next steps? Melina interjected, her voice slicing through the thick tension. She has to focus on getting better. This isn't the time for decisions about the future, Melina, I whispered, my gaze shifting between her and the nurse. What if Maria's health needs take priority over everything else? What are you suggesting? Melina's eyes sparked with anxiety, her hands trembling as they gripped the edge of Mariah's bed, as if anchoring herself to the reality beneath her. There might come a point where she has to weigh her own future, what it could mean for her, for the adoption. What if she decides it's not right for her right now? The words slipped out, a hopeless attempt to frame the confusion in my heart regarding the outcome of Mariah's condition. But even as I fostered that possibility, my mind whirled at its own ferocity. The mere thought painted hues of dread over our souls. Maria had nurtured that dream, and to see her abandon it as life posed its own challenging questions felt unspeakable. Maria stared into the distance, her expression lost in thought. I could see the struggle playing out on her face, the weight of 1,000 decisions clamoring for her attention. The burden was palpable, cutting through the collective air like a knife. Maybe she started to speak, hesitating before continuing. Maybe it's not about what I want anymore. Maybe it's just about surviving. Don't say that. Melina insisted, stepping closer. You're not just surviving. You're living, Maria. You have so much to fight for. But the faltering tremor in her voice betrayed her fear that, beneath those words, her sister might be caught between a dream and a looming reality. Mia leaned forward, her expression lighting with determination. Listen, whatever you decide, we will be here for you every step of the way. Just let us in. It was the blatant earnestness in her tone, layered with vulnerability, that reminded all of us that our bonds were stitched together with more than just friendship. They were bound by the will to endure. Yeah, I added, attempting to catch Mariah's eye. No matter what, you don't have to make these choices alone. But deep down, I felt the tension stretching like an ever-thinning thread, nerves exposed and fraying against the fears swirling within our hearts. The nurse, sensing the tumultuous emotions spilling over, cleared her throat gently, grounding us back in that moment. I can arrange for counseling sessions during your time here, Maria. It could help facilitate the discussions you might need to have about your health, but also the future you envision. A silence blanketed us once again, filled only by the soft beeping of medical devices and the unbridgeable gaps formed by unsaid thoughts. Maria took a shaky breath, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. The promise of intervention mingled with the fear of abandonment, and I wished I could shield her from such daunting decisions. Is it possible? Mariah's voice cracked, drawing our gazes back towards her. Is it possible that I could decide later? I want to get through this first. But what if I won't be the same person afterward? Will I still want to adopt it all? Every word hung heavy in the air, shattering the fragile hope we had desperately tried to maintain. The truth cut. Each of us wrestled with the unwanted possibility that life would change significantly, that all of it hinged on circumstances beyond our control. Before I could answer, there was a loud commotion down the corridor, distant voices escalating to an agonizing crescendo. Our gaze flickered towards the noise, unsettling apprehension swirling once more. Moments later, the door flew open, and in rushed a figure I never thought I would see, one who sent a shockwave of confusion through me. A well-known face burst through, an air of urgency surrounding her like a storm. Is this where I heard about the situation? It was Nina Sky, the famous singer who had long captured hearts across the nation, and whose name now hung heavy in the air. Her arrival felt surreal, as if we had all stepped into a narrative threaded with deeper implications. Are you here for Maria? I stammered, unable to process the moment. The shock eclipsed my thoughts, leaving scarcely enough space for reason. The air in the room shifted with her entry, potential weaving around us like an unsteady tapestry, tugs and pulls of fate mingling without our permission. Nina turned her steely gaze towards Maria, her eyes softening as she approached. I'm here to talk about the adoption. What do you mean? Maria whispered, brow furrowing as if barely grasping the full weight of what the moment could entail. I didn't forget your dreams, Maria. But we have to discuss something important, something that could change everything, Nina said, her voice firm yet laced with gentleness. As the enormity of the moment settled, my heart thudded violently. The crossroads Maria faced had just expanded into uncharted territory. The tangled web of possibility and turmoil had woven yet another strand into our already complex tapestry. What had begun as a battle for survival was now intertwined with the very fabric of dreams that could cause irreparable change, dreams that now felt double-edged, and as Nina stepped further into our uncertain reality, I knew that we were standing on the brink of revelation, where hope and despair would collide in the most unexpected way. What lay ahead was cloaked in shadows, but it would ultimately shape not just Maria's fate, but all of ours. The whirlwind of emotions in the room retreated slightly, replaced by a sparking sensation of disbelief. As Nina Sky stood before us, the clips of her life flashed through my mind, the exuberance of her performances, the warmth of her engaging smile. This wasn't just a famous singer entering the room, this was a potential lifeline for Maria. The weight of her arrival pressed heavily on my heart, both inviting hope and intensifying the uncertainty that filled the air. Maria's brow furrowed, and for a fleeting moment, the clarity of her gaze shifted. Change everything? What do you mean? Her voice was a fragile whisper, fear sequencing itself through the promise of something that could feel like desperation. She pulled the bedsheets closer, as though seeking protection from the tremors of fate stitching through our lives. Nina stepped forward, reaching out as if bridging the gap between her world and Maria's. I want you to know that I believe in your dreams as much as you do, and it's why I've come here. I thought maybe we could talk about the adoption process again. I want to ensure it's still what you want, but with everything you are going through, I'd like to clarify some things. The room fell silent, each heartbeat echoing against the walls. But that momentary stillness shattered as Melina clenched her hands and turned to Nina with a mix of determination and protectiveness. But how could you possibly understand what she's facing right now? What if her choice changes? This isn't just about adoption. This is about her survival. Nina held Melina's gaze, unfazed by the surge of anger wrapped in sisterly concern. I see that, and it's exactly why I'm here. Maria needs the space to focus on her recovery, but it's also essential for her to know that her dreams are still valid. Even in this difficult time, I could feel the urge to intervene as this magical moment spiraled. My heart ached for Maria, whose eyes darted from Nina to me, searching for a tether of reassurance. But before I could speak, Maria found her voice again, breathing deeply through her unsteady emotions. What do you mean by your offer? If I'm not the same, if I can't even think about being a mother? Nina's expression softened, layers of empathy lining her features. Maria, the journey to motherhood, to creating a family, is not just about the ability to physically bear children. It's about the heart and spirit that makes a family whole. Only you will know when you're ready. And I'm here to support you in that. The words landed heavy in the room, reverberating not just for Maria, but colliding into the unvoiced fears of us all. Dreams morphed into questions. What if Maria wasn't ready? What if she chose differently down the line? A million doubts tightened around my chest. I needed to say something to ease the suffocating uncertainty wrapping around us. Maria, I said, taking a cautious step forward. No one is asking you to decide anything now. This is about finding your own strength, one step at a time. You have more than one option, and whatever you choose, we're in this together. My voice broke slightly as raw emotions collided within. Maria simply nodded, yet her shoulders drooped under the weight of inquiry. Was there a way to unearth resilience from despair? To grasp hope from a reality riddled with shadows? The nurse, observing our emotional upheaval, directed her attention to Nina. How do you envision supporting Maria during her recovery process? This is a difficult transition, and she needs the right environment. I am here to listen to Maria first, Nina replied earnestly. Whatever she chooses, I want it to be her choice, and I will respect that. I'm hoping we can create an open conversation. Just like she is trying to fight her illness, she must also believe that chasing her dreams won't disappear with it. That notion hung in the air, a radiant glimmer dancing against the dark tapestry we were embedded in. Yet, as fragile as hope felt, it remained precarious. I could feel my heart racing again, the boundaries of comfort and fear dilating before me. Suddenly, the peaceful silence that had followed Nina's defiance crumbled into chaos, and I was jolted from my thoughts by an urgent commotion from the hallway. "Nina, we need you now." A voice yelled from outside, followed by the sound of hurried footsteps. Nina turned, panic flashing across her face, her commitment to Maria now intersected by a different call. "I'm sorry, Toonie," she stammered, the weight of urgency pulling her near the door. "Wait." Maria called out, her voice strained. "Where are you going?" "I'll be back," Nina replied, her voice thick with emotion as she turned halfway to face us. "Just hold on. We have so much more to discuss, and I promise you, Maria, your dreams are safe with me." As Nina rushed out, a thunderous wave pushed through the fragile corners of hope we had constructed. Would she return with the answers we desperately needed, or had she just vanished into the uncertain darkness lurking beyond? The echo of Nina's retreat hung in the air, leaving behind a resonant silence filled with wavering possibilities. Mariah's spirit lingered, teetering at the precipice, her thoughts racing faster than any comfort could chase, drowning in uncertainty. "I don't know what to feel," Maria murmured, her expression clouded with vulnerability. In that moment, as I looked around at everyone that stood beside Maria, hands trembling, breaths hitching, hopes wavering, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were all standing on the cusp of irrevocable change. What if the choices looming ahead spiraled to redefine who we all were? Each thread intertwined us tighter while unraveling dreams and realities alike. And as I held Mariah's gaze, a harsh truth dawned on me. We were teetering at the edge of something monumental, with uncertain outcomes ready to materialize at any poignant moment. With the clock still ticking on unanswered questions and a future dangling before us, I realized that hope and fear wove together more intricately than I had ever anticipated, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of the unraveling. Within the vibrant yet sterile walls of the hospital room, tension crackled like static electricity. Each heartbeat echoed the lingering uncertainty cast by Nina's abrupt exit. The air was thick with unvoiced emotions, frustration, fear, hope, all swirling like a storm waiting for release. Maria sat on her hospital bed, her brow knitted in thought. Melina stood protectively by her side, while Mia and I exchanged uneasy glances, feeling the weight of an unsaid prayer pressing down on us. I sensed in my heart that we were on the cusp of a critical decision, one that could shape Maria's future and, ultimately, the fragile hopes of a sister in search of family. "Do you really think she'll come back?" Maria asked, her voice barely a whisper, carrying the weight of vulnerability. Her dark circles hinted at the unease grasping her. "I don't know," I admitted, feeling an uneasy tension winding within me. "But I believe she wants to help you, Maria. This is a chance for two hearts to find a home where chaos once reigned. You deserve that chance." Maria looked up at me, her face a blend of confusion and yearning, and with it came the flicker of recognition, the realization that each of us in the room desired something more than just survival. We sought to flourish amidst turmoil. Just then, a soft knock interrupted our thoughts. The door creaked open, and it was the nurse, her expression suggesting urgency tempered by understanding. "Maria, we need to discuss your upcoming tests. And your sister needs to be involved." Melina stepped closer, her unwavering loyalty laced with concern. "What are the next steps? Is there still time to talk to Nina when she comes back?" The nurse nodded, glancing between us as if gauging the collective energy filling the room. "Yes, but you may need to prepare for the possibility that it could take longer than expected. We're still awaiting results, and we want you to be in the best frame of mind for any decisions regarding your health." The nurse's words hung in the air, echoing with implications we desperately wanted to avoid yet needed to confront. The weights of the hospital, the sterile scents and mechanical sounds wrapped around us like a heavy quilt, suffocating the very dreams we clung to. Maria glanced at Melina, then back to me. "What if I am not ready for any of this? What if I fail again? What if I lose myself?" Her voice cracked like porcelain, revealing the fragile core of her spirit. "No one is asking you to decide anything right now," I assured her, stepping closer, my voice steady despite the palpable uncertainty. "Your health comes first. We're simply asking you to hold on to hope. Maria, there's a future ahead of you, one that you can design yourself. Tears sparkled in the corners of Mariah's eyes, too stubborn to fall but revealing the tempest within. But what if my ideas of family crumble like my hopes? What if I wake up one day and can't imagine ever desiring that again? You're scared, Melina whispered, brushing her hand against Mariah's, squeezing it gently. But so are all of us. You don't have to walk this path alone. Family means standing by each other when the tides are high. Mia stepped forward then, her small frame imbued with a strength we could all learn from. You have me, Maria. I believe in you, my future mom, whoever that may be. But you need to believe in yourself, too. Just try to trust the journey. Those words hung between us, settling like a warm blanket, igniting a blaze of possibility. The hope in Mia's voice linked with the untapped strength hidden within Mariah's heart, a dual heartbeat resonating sixfold between our souls. But just as emotion surged, the door opened once again, and this time it was Nina, rushed yet resolute. I am back, and we have important things to address, she said, restoring a thread of hope within our circle. But before we dive into possibilities, I need to see how both of you are doing, how this has impacted what you both seek moving forward. With each passing moment, Maria radiated both fragility and resilience. Nina, she began, hesitating. I don't know what I want anymore. I'm scared. Fear is normal. Nina replied, her voice softening. But that doesn't mean we should dismiss the possibility of something beautiful, even in the middle of despair. Nina's gaze swept across the room, settling on Melina, Mia, and finally back to Maria. I think we need to explore what you envision your life looking like after recovery. It's essential we address your dreams honestly, and there it was, the tipping point where clarity began to seep in through the cracks of uncertainty. Maria looked around, exhaustion woven into her features, but tucked behind it, I could glimpse the lingering light of hope rekindling. But if I am not the same person? She asked, vulnerability etched into her voice. What if I don't even want this life after healing? That's what life is about, isn't it? Nina replied, stepping closer. Reinvention. When the world tries to box us in, we have the power to break free. I'm here to help you embrace both possibilities, what might come once you recover, and the nurturing love of a family, if that's what you truly still want. The warmth in her voice began to ease the mounting tension. Maria pondered these words, a flicker of understanding playing across her features. Yes, change could be frightening. But what if it also ushered in something heart-stirring, a home crafted not from sketching an ideal, but navigating the shadows together? Would you help me through this? Maria asked, her voice barely a whisper. Would you still want to adopt if I'm not who I used to be? It'll help you through the journey, as though we're both still crafting the story together, Maria, Nina affirmed. Because that story can be more compelling than you ever envisioned. Well, figure it out, step by step. Every word that Nina spoke ignited something deep inside Maria, and if my heart had a sound, it would have echoed with hope and possibility. The cracks began to mend, not through resolutions but through the solidarity we now felt for one another. Then, to my surprise, Maria turned to me, her eyes thick with emotion, revealing a softness I hadn't seen before. You fought this battle for me, and I see your pain reflected in my own. I want you to know that I'm grateful for your belief in my dreams. Our gazes locked, and in that moment, it felt like the entire universe paused to allow a space to breathe through the vulnerability and heartache we carried. Our journey as siblings had been tumultuous, filled with years of uncertainty, but today, we stood holding the fragile threads of hope, woven through our connection. Before the wave of emotion could overwhelm me, I drew breath and leaned closer. It's not just about the fight, Maria. It's about the journey we walk together. We'll be there through it all, dreams and fears alike. You are never alone in this. As tears began to fall, I felt the tremors of fate shift around us, the very canvas of our lives beginning to reshape anew. Surrounded by the love of those we cherished most, Maria stepped tentatively toward the future, ready to embrace the tumultuous waves. A new path had emerged, shimmering as brightly as the innocence that had once woven dreams for Mia. It illuminated a way forward, not as a collection of threatened aspirations, but as a testimony of faith and resilience. As the last flickers of daylight seeped into the room, I knew we had forged something timeless, a bond strengthened through fear, resilience, and the enduring spirit of family. Our fates were intertwined, and there lay a power within us, one that could shake the foundations of uncertainty and guide us home. And as I looked at Maria, she whispered the words that echoed in our hearts. Together, let's dare to dream again. The beauty of that moment crescendoed, painting our past with strokes of hope and bravery, reaffirming that together, we could face whatever the world hurled our way. We weren't just tethered by shared histories, but by the love that we were destined to create. A family forged amidst chaos, ready to embrace the light of tomorrow, forever intertwined in the powerful tapestry of life.